Welcome to First Parish in Waltham. We are so glad you're here, and thank you this morning for making this your spiritual home. And I hope you all came in blue boats. Please share your name, pronoun. Oh, that's me. That's instructions to me. I am Dan Taylor. I am currently treasurer of this parish and am on the Board of Trustees. Today I am wearing a motley colored shirt that came from the clothing exchange downstairs. If you haven't been there, I would suggest you go check it out. I go by he, him pronouns, and I'm a 60-something guy, and I won't go into the details of what it's like to be old. So, okay, here are this week's announcements. We try to make our service as accessible as possible with hearing helpers and large print versions of our service materials available from our ushers. Paper copies of our weekly newsletter are available at the entrances to the building. To receive an emailed copy each week, please speak to a greeter or usher. There are two places where you can find our newsletter: in Constant Contact and on our website under the News tab. Interested in donating flowers for a Sunday service? Sign up in our newsletter. Pastoral care is available to everyone, newcomers and members and visitors alike. Please reach out for assistance. Inclement weather plan. Sunday services may be canceled or held on Zoom. Updates will be posted by 7 p.m. in the newsletter and on Facebook. Okay. Other church activities that day will be canceled or rescheduled. For non-church events, contact the organizer. The 2026 Jones Partnership Fund application is opened. A First Parish sponsor is required. Sponsor requests are due by January 5th, 2026. Maybe you could get in a little after that, since that's already passed. And applications are due February 2nd, 2026. Contact Marty Ahrens with questions. Job listing. We're looking for a reliable, nurturing person to join our Sunday morning nursery team. This is a paid position, $25 an hour, Sundays 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. now through June. Applicants must be 18 or older and CPR certified. Contact April Rosario. Thank you to the First Parish community for your generous winter donations to Chaplains on the Way. Please continue to view the newsletter for our current needs. Thank you for your continued support. The book club will meet on Thursday, January 15th at 12:30 p.m. in the Harrington Room and on Zoom to discuss Quiet by Susan Cain. For Zoom details, please email Martha Gallagher. For this week's coffee hour, D through H is responsible for providing items. Thank you. After coffee hour, please exit via the office door right over here. Please join us in welcoming the Newton All City Troubadours and Reverend Erica Barron to our service this morning. Thank you for being here, and we invite you to join us all for coffee hour after the service. This is the end of today's announcements. Please check that you have silenced your phone and other communication devices. And now, please turn around and wave to the lovely people who are joining us on Zoom. Our video camera is just to the right of the exit sign over the door.
Good morning. My name is Michael Carmody, and I serve as Music and Worship Commissioner on the First Parish Board of Managers. I'm 70 years old, white male, and with silver hair and wearing mostly black with a gray fleece vest. Before our opening words, many of us today are burdened with heavy hearts, thinking about the tragedy that occurred in Minnesota this past week. Many feelings are still raw, and consolation is difficult. And I thought about this for a little while, and it occurred to me to think about a young teenage Jewish girl named Anne Frank hiding with her family during the Holocaust in an attic in the city of Amsterdam, knowing that if she and her family were discovered, they would certainly be killed. And yet she said, in spite of everything, I still believe that people are truly good at heart. This, I think, is wonderful courage of belief and hope in humanity. Our opening words this morning are by Amanda Schuber and entitled, "We're Glad You Are Here." Might be a typo, huh? Didn't notice. If this is your first time here or your 100th and first time, we're glad you're here. If you carry the weight of a weary world on your shoulder, or you entered through the doors with a song in your heart and a skip in your step, we're glad you're here. If you are the loudest voice in the town square or the subtle hand behind the scenes, we are glad you are here. If you have failed once or 1,000 times, we're glad you're here. If you sing like angels or mumble behind the hymnal, we're glad you're here. This community is what it is because of your presence. So welcome. Welcome into this space of love, support, justice, compassion, fellowship, and worship. We are glad you're here. And we're also so glad, as Dan Taylor said, to welcome the Reverend Erica Barron, who's joining us this morning as our worship leader, and to the Newton All City Troubadours as our guest musicians. They sounded wonderful in rehearsal, and they sounded even better singing our wonderful prelude this morning. Reverend Erica joined the UUA New England region staff in 2019, focusing on helping congregations live into their missions and develop their gifts for spiritual leadership. Before joining the congregational life staff, she served as parish minister for the Unitarian Universalist congregation of the Catskills in Kingston, New York, as well as the congregations in Rutland and Bennington, Vermont. She's a graduate of Andover Newton Theological School. The All City Troubadours, are an auditioned youth choir from grade 7 upwards. They rehearse once a week under the direction of Jaime Alberts and Eric Ritter. Is it Jaime or Jamie? Jaime? Okay. Correction. It is Jaime Alberts. For this Sunday service, they will be performing alongside local musician Dave Herlihy, a music professor at Northeastern University. The Troubadours performed backing vocals for one of his recent releases, and so Dave invited them to join him today. Welcome, Erica and the Newton All City Troubadours. And again, thank you for being with us today.
So as you heard, I'm Erica Barron. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a white woman with very short hair wearing gray today. And our chalice lighting words today are by Michelle Collins. Welcome to this place, a place where hope can be nourished. In a world that profits from despair, our gathering is a declaration of faith. We declare that joy still rises, that kindness still matters, that hope is not dead. We come to remember that we are not alone. May our time together restore us to wonder, strengthen our resolve, and return us to the world as bearers of hope that sustains the work of resistance.
We will now sing our opening hymn, and we encourage you to rise in body or spirit, or do whatever feels right to you. If you feel like dancing in the aisles, clapping along, singing with gusto, or simply listening. So please join us in singing hymn number 1 in your gray hymnal. May nothing evil cross the store. We ask those standing to remain standing for our covenant affirmation, which begins with the word love. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Please be seated.
Good morning. My name is Elise Gittleman. I'm going to do my best to do the wisdom tale. I'm not April, but I'm going to give it my best shot. And this is a particularly apt wisdom tale for something that's going on right now in this community. And I am looking at you, Elizabeth, so just so you know. And this is called The Beavers and the Flood. And this one starts not once upon a time, but long ago. Beside a wide and winding river lived a community of beavers. They were not the strongest animals in the forest, nor the fastest, but they had a practice. Every day, they gathered at the water's edge. They checked the dam together. They repaired small cracks. They passed sticks from one to another. They listened to the water, to the weather, to one another. Some days the river was calm and their work felt unnecessary. Some days other animals laughed. Why work so hard when nothing is wrong, they asked. But the beavers kept practicing. They practiced cooperation. They practiced sharing leadership. They practiced showing up even when the work was slow and unglamorous. Then one season, the rains came harder than anyone remembered. The river swelled, the water pushed and pulled and threatened to undo everything. The beavers did not panic. The beavers did not wait for a hero. They did what they had practiced. They gathered. They took their places. They reinforced weak spots. They supported one another when the current was strong. The flood did not disappear, but neither did the beavers. Because they had practiced together, new possibilities emerged. Safety instead of chaos. Solidarity instead of fear. Resistance instead of collapse. This is how resistance often works. Not as a single dramatic moment, but as a set of shared practices, repeated, imperfect, collective. We practice listening. We practice mutual care. We practice standing together against forces that would divide or overwhelm us. And when the waters rise, as they always do, what becomes possible is not just survival, but a future shaped by community, courage, and care.
Thank you, Elise. That was a lovely story. My name is Emma Campbell, and when I'm not with the Troubadours on a Wednesday evening, I am here as music director. Our second hymn this morning is Lift Every Voice and Sing. Some may not realize that initially this was a poem with 3 verses. The first verse of the poem is praise, and I encourage you to sing it loudly and lustily. The second verse is a lament, and the third is a prayer. If you want to shape the way you sing to match the lyrics, you would be extremely welcome. However, I am going to invite you to consider rising, or doing what you would do for your own national anthem. This piece of music has become, for many, the Black national anthem, and I would be delighted if you would treat it as such this morning. Hymn number 2.
Good morning. I am Nancy Lawrence. I'm a member of the care team here at First Parish, along with my partner, Plum. And what we do every Sunday is to have an opportunity for people to come forward with either a care or a concern that is in your mind. We've learned that when people share a care, which is something in their lives that is troubling, or a concern, or a joy that they want to share with all of us, that it makes your burden lighter and your joy increase. What it means is that we are a community, and we like to back each other, share with each other, and support each other however that is needed. So at this time, we invite you to come forward with a care or concern that you may have, and we light a candle, and at the end, we'll read the chat, and then light one final candle.
And that would be the end of our chat.
I'll just close and say, I cannot imagine going through a crisis of our nation without a congregation like this one. So it's a great joy to be here. Thank you. And we will light one more candle for anyone who has not felt comfortable coming forward. Thank you.
For our meditation this morning, I invite you to bring your attention to where your body is being held by gravity. So if you're here in the room with me, that's the pew that you're sitting in. If you're on Zoom, whatever you're sitting on, or if you're standing beneath your feet. If this is comfortable for you, you can keep your attention here, and if not, then you can notice something else that's being held by gravity, like this lovely bell, for example. And just drop your awareness into that space of holding, being supported. Rest your awareness there for a moment. I invite you, as you notice gravity, to remember what gravity is. It is the force of the earth pulling us towards herself. And I invite you to notice that you are always held by something very much larger than yourself, which will never let you go. And take another breath or two in this place of gravity and holding. And we give thanks to the earth for holding us. Amen.
The offering we take each Sunday is an opportunity to recommit to this place and to these people. It is as much a ritual as singing together, lighting our chalice, or reciting our unison affirmation. It is a reminder of that form of love we call generosity. It is how we show that we believe it is important to worship together, to help our community, and to say yes to the values of our faith. As we listen to our wonderful troubadours, let us give generously and gratefully receive this morning's offering.
Not for me, the blood.
This morning's reading is by Starhawk. We are all longing to go home to some place we have never been, a place half remembered and half envisioned, we can only catch glimpses of from time to time. Community. Somewhere there are people to whom we can speak with passion without having the words catch in our throats. Somewhere a circle of hands will open to receive us, eyes will light up as we enter, voices will celebrate with us whenever we come into our own power. Community means strength that joins our strength to do the work that needs to be done. Arms to hold us when we falter, a circle of healing, a circle of friends, someplace where we can be free. So this month, we are talking about practicing resistance, and I'm going to get to the resistance part in a bit, but first I want to talk about practicing. So what does it mean to practice something? You have to actually do the thing, right? You have to actually do something in order to be practicing, and you have to do it repeatedly, often with the goal of getting better at something or preparing for something. So our lovely troubadours, anyone else in the room play an instrument or sing? So you have to practice. Anyone play a sport of any kind? Yes, you have to practice. We practice lots of things together. We also talk about spiritual practice, and in the realm of spiritual practice, we're not necessarily talking about improvement or preparation as much as ingraining a way of living, doing something repeatedly so that it becomes part of us. Now, my favorite quote about practice comes from T. Thorne Coyle, who says, "Practice makes possible. Not perfect, we are never perfect. I used to play the French horn. I know no amount of practice was going to make me perfect, but possible. With consistent practice of anything over time, more becomes possible. Like the beavers with the dam could build the dam against the flood, or a particularly skilled dancer with more practice can do more and more things. So as you heard earlier this morning, I am one of the congregational consultants for the New England region of the Unitarian Universalist Association, which is a very long title. But what it means is that I'm part of a team that supports UU congregations in New England with all kinds of things, from preaching on Sunday morning to where do you find that thing on your website to big celebrations and big challenges. And my team has developed a way of thinking about practices in congregations that include 5 specific practices. So those are centering in gifts, which means finding the things we're really gifted at and love to do and finding a way to bring those to community. Doing our inner work, which means the sort of inner reflection and practice so that we can become our best selves. Covenanting, which we're going to come back to. Tending our tradition, which means celebrating and bringing forward the things from our past that are wonderful, and tending to and making repair for the things in our past that are less wonderful. And faithful risking, which is about doing the thing even though we don't necessarily know how it's going to turn out. But of these 5 practices, today I want to talk about covenanting. So we usually talk about covenant as a noun, a covenant. So a covenant is a set of mutual promises. This concept comes to our tradition from way, way, way back in our religious ancestors through the Jewish tradition and the covenant between God and the people. In Unitarian Universalism, the covenants we make are among us, promises we make to each other, as well as to the larger world around us. So we often think of covenant as the thing, right? We made a set of promises, there it is, our covenant, lovely. But we are talking today about covenanting as a verb. So we might think about covenanting as the initial process of making those promises and defining what it is that we want to promise each other, which is also great. But if we just spend some time, make some promises, put them there, look at them, aren't they lovely, and don't actually practice them, they will not be possible, just like anything else that we don't practice. So we think of covenanting as the ongoing practice of living into our promises and then course correcting when we don't do that perfectly. And that practice of living our promises makes it more possible to keep them, but not perfect, so we also practice repair here too. So within Unitarian Universalism, we think of covenanting as our way of practicing how we want human relationships and human communities to be, as aligned with our values. So one way of thinking about the covenant that we share is these new values. So the Unitarian Universalist Association, all of us, all over the country, created a new way of thinking about this in 2024, which is 6 shared values, and the 7th, which is love. So in the center we have love. That's the most important of our shared values. And then around it, we have justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity. So those things are how we want to be together, right? We want to treat each other with generosity. We want to create justice and equity in our congregations and in the world around us. We recognize that we are interdependent. I need you, you need me, we all need the earth needs us. We understand that we are transforming all the time, and we want to do that intentionally and in the direction of our values. So, great, we're gonna do all this wonderful stuff together, right? So we're gonna practice covenant, and we're gonna love each other. Cool. There's a lot of smaller things that go into what that actually means in practice. So if you think about some of our other examples of practice, right? So if you're practicing soccer, for example, you're practicing running and kicking and moving your body in space and all that. If you're practicing the violin, there's the bowing hand and the hand holding the violin. So you're practicing what those two hands do, and you're also practicing reading music and all of the other things that go into that. So when we practice covenant, we need a bunch of littler things that go together to make up that covenant of love. So there's a lot of those that we could talk about, but today I want to talk about 3. So listening, interrupting, and caring for our own selves, our own nervous systems. So let's start with listening. I read a lot of advice columns because I think it's kind of fun. And one of the things that I, 75% of the time, I'm like, you all just need to talk to each other. That's it. Let's talk to each other and actually listen, right? So this is one of the absolutely most fundamental parts of the work of covenanting, or the work of being a community in love, is actually listening to each other. And that means understanding, you come into this listening with the understanding that the other person or other people that you're listening to, their wants and needs matter as much as yours do. It's amazing how simple this is and how often it doesn't actually happen in practice, right? We listen as though, because it is true, that the other person or people matter as much as we do, and so do their wants and needs. It also means being open to hearing an experience that you don't have or haven't witnessed. So that if somebody says, I experienced this thing, and you contributed to it, and you didn't know that you were doing that thing, it's not like, well, I didn't know, so therefore you're wrong, right? It's being open to understanding that other people may have an experience that you have not had. And the most important part of this, actually, is being willing to be moved and changed. So we come into listening in the space of covenant knowing we are going to come out of the conversation in a different place than we started. And being willing to be changed or transformed, which is one of our values, by the conversation, by the interchange, is part of what real listening in a covenant means. So the next thing I want to talk about is interrupting. Now, interrupting might seem counter to covenant, but I'm going to read a piece by Julica Herman de la Fuente, who explains this as part of covenant. So, Julica says, one of the most humbling lessons of my anti-racism education career was when I witnessed a difficult and racist presentation in a Unitarian Universalist gathering, and I didn't think it was mine to interrupt. In fact, there were over 40 people in the room, and nobody thought it was theirs to interrupt. It was like witnessing a train wreck in slow motion. It was terrible, and no one said, stop. When the speaker was finished, we all struggled to process what had just happened. No one said, we need a caucus for the people of color in the room, because there were 6 of us, to figure out what we need. There was stark silence, followed by tortured conversation. I learned that day that if I am in the room, it's my responsibility to interrupt when someone is being harmed, and to center their or our needs. It doesn't matter what my hierarchical position is in the system, I'm part of a covenantal community, and when a covenant gets broken, it's my responsibility to name that break with kindness and the intention of healing, to call us back into right relationship. To throw a wrench into the agenda is one of the more destabilizing things that we can do in majority white spaces, because white supremacy culture teaches us to be efficient, to stay on task, to aim for perfection. The alternative is being relational. Instead of staying on task, we can pay attention to what just happened and what needs to be done in order to restore right relationship. And we can center those who have been placed at the margins. The holy muscle of interruption is about courage and a commitment to love at a higher level, about liberation and wholeness. It's about being willing to risk being unpopular in the moment and taking the heat that will happen when you interrupt the process. When something happens that requires interrupting, it's ours to do, and the more privilege we have, according to our social location, the more responsibility we have to leverage that privilege. When we do, we bring the beloved community into being in that moment. Well, that was all Julica, who's very wise and says things beautifully. All right, so interrupting. She was talking about a particularly extreme form of this, which is something very, very obviously wrong is happening, and it needs interruption. But there's also very much smaller versions of this, right? And it's often true when you're sitting in any gathering that something happens and you're like, I don't know, that didn't really feel good. So part of interrupting is interrupting at that point. Hey, can we just slow down a minute? Because that didn't feel great. Along with, interrupting big presentations and so on. And like all of the other practices that we're talking about today, interrupting gets more possible with practice. So the more that we practice, noticing, hey, something is off here, we need a course correct, the easier it becomes. And it's also easier if you set it up ahead of time and practice together as a group. So I spend a lot of time talking to congregational boards. That's kind of the group that I spend the most of my time with. But this would be true in any small group, any committee, any group of friends, any gathering of people where you have a thing you're doing together, right? And if you do it regularly, right, the board meets every month, or maybe your D&D group meets every month, or the choir practices every week, whatever. At some point, near the beginning of that time together, you have a conversation and you say, you know what, we are going to agree together that we are going to prioritize covenant and relationship, our values, love, transformation, generosity, interdependence. We are going to prioritize that over getting done what was written on our agenda, right? Or whatever else we decided was the point of being here today. And that means that together we are going to agree that we are going to interrupt what's happening, and we're not going to get mad at each other for it. Okay, you can't actually make yourself not get mad at somebody in the moment, but we're going to recognize, I'm angry, that's mine, I can deal with it, right? We're also going to agree together that when somebody says, hey, wait, stop, they're not saying that at anyone in particular, right? This is not a personal attack. It's a, whoa, all of us, we need to stop and look at this thing, right? And if you do this, if you set it up ahead of time, and you practice it with little things, then when you get to the big things, you have the muscle, right? You have made it possible together to say, hey, wait, stop. Just like the beavers, when the flood came, had practiced making all the little cracks okay, and so they could hold back the flood. Now, I want to talk about your body in relationship to everything I've just said, because it makes a big difference. So, we often in congregations or in the rest of the world talk about certain people as being reactive, right? Oh, we can't make that person mad because they're so reactive. Or that, we can't go there, right? The truth of the matter is that what we often call reactivity is a body nervous system response. So your nervous system is the part of your body that takes in information in the world and processes it and decides what to do. And when you activate the sympathetic nervous system, that's what happens when your body thinks it is under life threat, right? You don't have to actually be that threatened. In fact, our bodies are built to assume we are threatened way more often than we actually are. Because if we react to a threat that isn't there, we are more likely to survive than if we fail to react to a threat that is there, right? So way back when we're running away from tigers, we're built to run before we even have figured out whether that's actually a tiger or not, right? So when your body goes, oh, this is scary, this is threatening, one of four things happens. The two that we know very well in larger culture are fight or flight. So one of these versions is your body prepares to fight off the bear. I'm gonna win this encounter. Or your body prepares to run away as fast as you possibly can, right? And then the other two, which are less well known, are freeze, which is the human equivalent of playing dead. So you get very still and hope that the thing doesn't notice that you're there. I'm not here, you don't see me. And then the last one, which is sort of newer in our understanding, is called appease sometimes. It's also called fawn, because we needed a thing that started with an F because the other three did, right? This is a particular survival strategy for social creatures, such as us, for when the threat is coming from within in the group. So if somebody in our group is getting big and scary and threatening, this reaction is to go towards that person, in our case, and convince them that we are on their side, right? Like, I'm with you. I'm on your side. Don't need to fight me. I'm good. Fight those other people instead, right? Okay. So the thing is that your body will do one of those 4 things before your brain has even registered that anything is wrong, right? And it will do it to anything. So you're sitting there in a conversation. Let's say you're sitting there in the board meeting, and suddenly we're talking about the budget, and suddenly we notice that we don't have enough money, and that feels scary, and just like that, we're in one of those 4 reactions, right? Or it doesn't even have to be something that's happening right now, right? You're talking to a friend or a partner. Let's say your partner suddenly uses the words that meant you are really in trouble now, as in your childhood. They don't mean anything necessarily in this context. For me, this is disappointment. I'm disappointed in you. Whew. Suddenly I'm in fight or flight. Doesn't really matter what the actual context was, right? So your body reacts. Cool. Now, here's the thing. When your body reacts, it is getting ready to do certain things, like run away or fight or be very still. And in order to do those things, it's going to say, running more important than a bunch of other stuff. Part of this bunch of other stuff over here that we're not going to worry about until we're like safe is language. We have very minimal ability to talk or listen when we're over here getting ready to fight the bear. And that means that you can't talk yourself out of this, and you can't talk someone else out of it, especially not if you rely on rationalization. This is a problem in UU communities, because we often like to try and reason each other out of things. Like, you really don't need to be afraid of that, because 5 reasons why you really don't need to be afraid of that. But we are not taking in verbal information when we're in this place, right? Also, by the way, this is a thing our body does before our brain is remotely involved, which means it does not carry a moral charge, right? It is not good or bad morally to have any of these reactions. Your body just does it. There's nothing you can do about it. So we don't need to shame each other either, because that's also not going to help. So what does help? The good news is there are things that help. And the things that help are specific practices that will tell your body without words that it is safe, all right? And we actually use a bunch of these in our community already. Good news. One of the most effective communal practices for moving through activation is singing together. And there's like a million reasons for this, right? So one is that the breath pattern of a quick inhale followed by a long exhale is part of what tells your body you're okay. But there's a lot of people like me who, if you tell me how to breathe, I freak out. It's, one of my activation things. But if you're singing, you will do that naturally. You don't have to think about it. It's just what your body does when you're singing. Also, it is a way of very clearly telling your body there are a whole bunch of other bodies around me, and we are like in sync because we're breathing together. Breathing together is another practice. When you study groups that sing together for long enough, like not only your breath synchronizes, but eventually your heartbeats will synchronize too. All the things your body does sync up. And so it's a way of telling your body, like, we're cool. There's a group of us. We're all together. We're together in this, without actually having to use words at all, except the words you're singing. Another one of these practices is what we did for our prayer this morning, which is why we did it. So noticing gravity and resting your awareness in gravity is another way of telling your body, hey, you're cool. Like, you got the earth. It's holding you. Nothing's chasing you. It's all good. Another way to do this is to really focus on your senses, because it's like, let's look at the you're actually not being in life-threatening danger right now, which we know because, and the version of this that I like the best is called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So it's notice 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can feel, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. Now, if any of those are not easy for you, for example, seeing is difficult, or you don't taste anything at the moment, that's fine, just skip that one, do the others. And do it a couple of times, and it will tell your body, hey, I'm okay, I'm here, I'm in the room. So when we're gathered together, right, and we decide ahead of time that we're going to interrupt when things are going sideways, it's very helpful to decide on a single word that is the interruption, because we don't have access to language, right? So within UU youth community, this word is ouch, so that's a possibility. You could also just say stop, or whoa, or whatever. But if you decide ahead of time what that word is, it could be tomato, it doesn't matter. If you decide ahead of time what the word is, that's all you have to remember, and it's all you have to say. You don't have to come up with a speech, right? You just say the word. And then together you can do these things. You can sing together, you can notice gravity together, you can notice your senses together. Some people need time away to restore their nervous system, so they go for a walk. That's another super helpful one. Some people, if you tell them go away, will just ramp themselves up more, and that's why things like singing together are helpful, right? But however we do it, we can tend to our nervous system first, which means that when we get to the part of like, okay, what just happened, and how do we need to repair it, and are there apologies that need to happen, are there ways we need to do things differently, we are back to having access to language and the ability to listen to each other, which is, again, our first practice. All right, so, cool. We are so far only talking about congregations, right, and groups of friends, people who already like each other and get along and generally agree on things, although we all disagree on something. That is true in any gathering of people. But what about the world we're living in right now? Lots of us have mentioned this morning. We are living in a particularly challenging and conflict-ridden world right now. So, there's a few reasons why these practices that I'm talking about today are on this month in particular, the practicing resistance. So, one of them is that, these same three skills, listening, interrupting, tending to your nervous system, are also useful out there in the world in acts of resistance to racism and corporate power and all of the things that we are resisting. The ability to interrupt it is super important, and if we practice that, we're more likely to be able to do it out there too. If we're in a situation that has suddenly got very scary, the ability to tend to your own nervous system and the nervous systems around you, super helpful. It's probably one of the reasons why protest movements sing so much, whether we know it or not, right? And also listening is super important here too, because for a lot of us, like me, for example, I carry a lot of social privilege into the world, and if I'm not listening, I'm just gonna assume that the way I like things is right for everybody, and I know what's best for everybody, which I don't. So the ability to really listen to the people around us as we are all together figuring out what we need to do to support each other is important out there too. And then the other thing is that we can resist evil and power misused all day, and we will absolutely burn out if we are not also thinking about creating the alternative, right? We cannot resist all the time. It is necessary, but it is overwhelming. And if we succeeded in the resistance and managed to overcome all of those forces and didn't have a vision of what comes next, we are just going to repeat it. That's borne out by history. So we need to also be envisioning and practicing the thing we would rather have, right? So one of my favorite teachers about the dynamics of systems and communities is Adrienne Maree Brown, and one of her principles is called fractals, which is a fancy way of saying things that look the same at different scales, right? So there's a bunch of these in nature, right? So if you look at the root system of a tree, for example, and compare it to the way that blood vessels are in your body, they look very similar, et cetera, et cetera. So this is the idea of fractals, and her idea is that what we do in a small context is what we do in the big context. If we can't love each other and listen to each other and make repair here in our small context, it's going to be very hard to do it out there. But if we have practiced all of those skills here over and over again, then when there is an opportunity to use them out there, we have them, and we can put them right to use. So everything we do in our community to build covenant, to practice our values, to live the way we want community to actually look like, is part of the resistance to evil, and it's also part of preparing for, if we ever win, what we're going to put in place instead, right? All right, so what I want you to mostly take away from today is that practice makes possible. The more that we practice things, the more possible they become. And it is part of our job as a religious community to practice love and transformation and generosity and interdependence and justice and equity and pluralism so that when the moment is right, that can grow beyond us and be the world that we live in. Amen.
Our closing hymn is 10:18, Come and Go With Me. It's in the teal hymnal in the bits in front of you, and it is mislabeled. It says it is an African-American spiritual from the slavery period. But since the book was published, we've discovered that it's quite possible that this hymn has its roots in blues music. Either which way, I invite you to rise in body or spirit and participate in a way that is appropriate to you.
May you know when to rest and when to rise. May you remember that pushing back against harm is also a way of making space for beauty.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dave Herlihy. I'm really thrilled to be here. So much of what I heard really resonates with me and how I feel. The idea of resistance is important, and it just feels good to be among decent people. who are thinking about this. We're going to do a song that I wrote called Good Trouble, which is a phrase coined by John Lewis, who is a civil rights activist icon, but he was just a guy, just a person, just like you, just like me, just a guy. And but he coined this term, good trouble. He said, when you see something that's not right, not just, not fair, make some good trouble and get in the way. And it's kind of hard to know what to do. I think so much of what's going on now has the effect of making us feel kind of powerless. And another thing I want to just sort of talk about before we perform the song together, Abraham Lincoln, in his inaugural in 1861, coined the phrase better angels. And he was trying to speak to a divided nation on the verge of the Civil War. So what we're going through is not unprecedented, and Abraham Lincoln was speaking to us about being better angels. And a thing that occurs to me is that angels have wingspans, and something is within your wingspan as an angel. And so I can't do anything about tariffs. I can't do anything about Venezuela per se, but I can write a song, I can sing, I can do what is within my wingspan. I don't know what's within your wingspan. That's for you to know. But we're not alone, and each of us has a wingspan. And so do that which is within your wingspan, whatever that may be, and make good, nonviolent, peaceful trouble. Is this on? The sky is falling faster. No use yelling at the clouds. The boys are in their uniforms, trash talking at the crowds. I'm just a kind soul living in a cruel town. You better watch your mouth, boy. You better keep your head down. Good trouble, good trouble. Not going down without a fight, without a fight. Not going down without a fight, without a fight. The barricades are empty, nobody's on the street. They took the girl down the block. What's it got to do with me? I read the news today, oh boy. Shake my head in disbelief. I saw it with my own two eyes. Where's the agency? Good trouble, good trouble. Not going down without a fight, without a fight. Not going down without a fight, without a fight, without a Not going down without a fight, without a fight. Not going down without a fight, without a fight, without a fight. Save your money for a rainy day. The rainy day is now. It's there within your wingspan. What's a better angel do? Fly! I'm not alone. We are not alone. The weight of the world is love. The weight of the world is love. Good trouble, good trouble. Not going down without a fight, without a fight. Not going down without a fight, without a fight.
trouble, necessary trouble. Thank you very much.
And guests, we have beverages so we can carry on the conversations generated by the service. Thank you for coming. If you would like to join us for beverages, out of that door and turn left, and someone will greet you in the hall. And thank you so much, Erica.